Have you ever felt that reality is not as solid, not as fixed, as it seems? That perhaps, behind the veil of the ordinary, lies a secret so powerful, so transformative, that it could bend the very fabric of your existence? There is an ancient technique, whispered in forbidden circles and buried deep in the forgotten pages of lost civilizations. A practice so potent, it was hidden from the masses, not to protect the weak, but to prevent the awakening of too many at once. Tonight, you are being invited to remember. What if I told you that the world you see around you, the patterns, the people, the problems, are not just happening to you, but through you? That your third eye, the seat of inner vision, has been dormant not because you lack power, but because you've been taught to ignore it? This is not about trendy meditation or surface-level chakra talk. This is about a forbidden technique, rooted in ancient mystery schools, refined by seers and mystics who understood that perception is the architect of reality. It is a method once used by high priests in Egypt, tantric sages in India, and spiritual scientists in Atlantis. Tonight, you will learn how to use it, not just to glimpse other dimensions, but to reshape your own. In this video, we'll journey through the hidden history of the third eye, unveil the ancient science behind its activation, and explore why this knowledge was obscured by centuries of control and confusion. Then, we'll dive deep into the core of this technique, step by sacred step, and show you how to apply it tonight, so that your reality begins to shift tomorrow. But I must warn you, once you open this inner gateway, there is no going back. Perception will stretch, synchronicities will intensify, and your dreams may begin to bleed into waking life. That is the nature of true awakening. If you're ready, truly ready, let's begin. Long before modern science learned to measure waves or map the brain, there existed a sacred understanding among ancient cultures, that vision was not merely an external function of the eyes, but an internal faculty of the soul. The third eye, called the ajna in Sanskrit, the eye of Horus in Egypt, the eye of Shiva in Vedic texts, was regarded not as a metaphor, but as a literal portal to inner realms and higher dimensions of consciousness. To the uninitiated, it was superstition. But to those inducted into mystery schools, keepers of secret rites and vibrational sciences, it was the most vital organ of perception, a lens through which reality could be rewritten. In ancient Kemet, now known as Egypt, high initiates trained for decades before being permitted to access third eye rites. They believed the eye of Horus held the power to communicate with the gods, not through words, but through frequency. The right hemisphere of the brain was thought to be the throne of intuition, and when activated in harmony with the pineal gland, it allowed one to transcend linear time and glimpse the Akashic records, the vibrational blueprint of all that has been and will be. Similarly, in Vedic traditions, yogis spoke of the ajna chakra not just as a center of awareness, but as a command center of reality itself. It was said that he who mastered the ajna could see without looking, travel without moving, and know without being told. But here is where it becomes unsettling, and deeply significant. These teachings did not vanish due to irrelevance. They were hidden, suppressed, infiltrated. As empires grew and religions centralized, the idea that each individual could access divine vision threatened the structure of power. The mystics and visionaries who once taught this wisdom freely were branded heretics, their scrolls burned, their temples turned to ruins. The Gnostics, who believed in divine inner knowledge over blind faith, were hunted. The early Christian mystics who spoke of the single eye were silenced or absorbed into doctrine. Why? Because this technique, this ability to awaken inner sight, meant no more intermediaries. No more dependence on external authority to dictate reality. When the third eye is truly opened, one begins to see the illusion of control, the matrix of programmed perception, and the truth that consciousness creates the world it witnesses. To those in power, such freedom is dangerous. And yet, the echoes of this ancient knowledge have never been fully silenced. They survived in hidden lineages, encrypted symbols, and even in plain sight, disguised as myth, art, and allegory. Leonardo da Vinci embedded third-eye geometry in his sketches. The architecture of ancient temples aligned with the pineal resonance of the earth. And certain Eastern martial arts taught initiates to see without eyes, training them to navigate space with energy perception. Philosophically, the third eye challenges our very definition of reality. If our senses can be deceived, and our minds shaped by belief, then what is real? Is reality a fixed structure, or a reflection of internal vision projected outward? Plato hinted at this in his allegory of the cave, suggesting that most humans only see shadows, never realizing they are bound by illusion. The mystics of every age agreed, to truly see is to awaken from the dream. But awakening is not an intellectual exercise, it is a vibrational shift, a cracking open of an inner eye that has long slumbered beneath layers of conditioning. Tonight, we dust off those ancient blueprints, we reclaim what was hidden in plain sight. And we begin the process of remembering, activating, not just an eye, but an entire realm of perception. A way of seeing that transforms everything it touches. Because once you see through the third eye, you don't just witness reality, you reshape it. To understand how the third eye can alter your reality, you must first understand what reality truly is, not as a fixed, external structure, but as a projection filtered through consciousness. Imagine, for a moment, that your life is not unlike a dream you walk through while awake. The people, the patterns, the so-called coincidences, they are all fragments of a deeper code, a language of symbols reflecting the inner state of your mind and soul. The third eye is not just a tool for psychic vision. It is the decoder of that language. It's what allows you to read the dream from within the dream, and eventually, to rewrite it. The physical anchor of this mysterious faculty is the pineal gland, a small, pinecone-shaped structure nestled deep in the brain, between the hemispheres. Modern science knows it primarily as the gland that regulates melatonin and sleep cycles, but the ancients knew it as the seat of the soul. Descartes, often dismissed as a rationalist, described the pineal gland as the point where the physical body and the immaterial soul intersect. But what he couldn't explain, what he perhaps dared not say too directly, is that this tiny gland is sensitive to light, even in total darkness. It is photosensitive, just like the eyes. And what it sees, is not what the human eye sees. When the pineal gland is dormant, your perception is confined. You see only the surface of things, names, labels, appearances. But when this gland is awakened, calcification reversed, and subtle energy activated, you begin to see through the veil. The separation between thought and reality begins to dissolve. You start to witness how your beliefs, those invisible scripts looping in the background, are casting the shadows on the cave wall of your life. The forbidden technique you're about to learn hinges on this. You are not merely observing reality, you are authoring it. Most people live as passive characters in their own stories, reacting to what appears. But those who activate the third eye begin to see themselves as the dreamers behind the dream. Reality, then, becomes pliable. Synchronicities emerge as signals. Patterns become teachings. Symbols come alive, and time, that rigid river, begins to ripple and bend. This shift doesn't begin with a ritual, or a chant, or a crystal. It begins with perception. The third eye operates on the principle that what you expect, you attract, and what you truly see, you shape. Just as an artist sees the sculpture inside the stone before ever striking it with the chisel, the awakened mind begins to see future possibilities within present circumstances. But the truly powerful secret is this: once the third eye opens, your thoughts no longer merely float through your mind, they become blueprints for your tomorrow. To illustrate this, let us consider a story, one rarely told, hidden in the Sufi mystic traditions. It is said that a blind dervish wandered the desert for 40 nights, praying not for physical sight, but for inner clarity. On the final night, he had a vision of a golden door within his forehead. When he touched it in his dream, it opened, and he awoke from sleep, not into the waking world, but into a deeper reality. In this vision, the stars whispered names to him, the sand shimmered with unseen colors, and he understood languages he had never heard. When he awoke again, this time into our world, he was still blind, but he was not the same. He walked differently. He spoke with certainty, and the people around him began to change, as if responding to an invisible force. The Sufis say, he had seen with the eye of the heart, and thus, the world rearranged itself around his vision. This is the essence of the third eye. Not seeing ghosts or future lottery numbers, as pop culture suggests, but seeing the truth, the architecture behind the illusion. The blueprint behind the building. The energy behind the event. To delve deeper into the mystery of the third eye is to step beyond the visible horizon of the mind. You see, the forbidden technique is not simply about awakening the pineal gland, it's about reorienting your consciousness toward inner causality. In a world where most believe in external causes and internal effects, this happened, so I feel this way, the awakened initiate reverses the flow. They understand that the inner frequency they hold is not a reaction to reality, it is the seed of it. This is the first paradox: you must act as if you already see, in order to begin seeing. The third eye responds not to doubt, but to presence. To clarity. Not clarity of logic, but of vibration. You do not beg for sight, you align with the version of yourself who already sees. This is why many seekers never cross the threshold. They wait for proof, for signs, before believing. But the technique requires an inversion of that equation. The sign comes after the alignment. The reality shifts after the inner lens is focused. Now let us speak of the forbidden aspect, why this technique has remained cloaked in metaphor, buried in symbolism, distorted into superstition. Because this power is dangerous to the systems that feed on unconscious belief. A human being who realizes their mind is a projector of reality no longer lives in fear, no longer consumes blindly, no longer obeys narratives without question. Imagine what that means for the world we know, a world built on reactive emotions, manufactured truths, and programmed perception. The third eye severs those cords. This is why ancient knowledge was encoded. The pineal gland was symbolized as a pine cone across civilizations, from the staff of Osiris in Egypt to the Vatican's own courtyard fountain. Even in Christianity, Jesus said, "If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light." This was not poetic allegory, it was esoteric instruction. The single eye refers to the unified inner vision, where duality dissolves and the self sees not through judgment or desire, but through truth. And truth, when seen clearly, begins to bend the illusion. Not with effort, but with frequency. When the third eye is awakened, your desires no longer come from lack. Your thoughts no longer chase the future. You begin to embody what you once sought. This embodiment shifts your resonance, and because reality is built on resonance, the world around you begins to respond. Here lies another paradox. You do not manipulate reality by force, but by remembrance. You remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You remember the deeper self, the timeless witness behind every role you've played, every mask you've worn. That self doesn't chase manifestation. It magnetizes. And the third eye is its compass. But beware, opening the third eye without inner grounding can be disorienting. You may begin to feel time folding in on itself. Memories may surface, some from this life, others from long before. Synchronicities will accelerate, dreams may become lucid, and at times, you may feel as though you're drifting between realities. This is normal. The veil is not torn all at once. It thins gradually, testing your readiness. And your stability in this transition depends not on how intensely you seek truth, but on how gently you hold it. There are many misconceptions, of course. Some say the third eye is simply hallucination. Others fear it opens gateways to dark realms. But understand this, the eye sees what you are prepared to witness. If your inner world is chaotic, the outer vision will mirror that chaos. This is not darkness, it is reflection. The third eye does not invent, it reveals. And what it reveals, at first, may be uncomfortable. Because truth often is. Yet, through the discomfort, comes liberation. You begin to see the architecture of your choices, the echo of your intentions, the invisible threads tying moments together. Patterns you once called fate now appear as feedback loops. Karma becomes less punishment, and more curriculum. Life ceases to happen to you, and begins to happen through you. This is the terrain we are entering. And soon, you will receive the exact steps, the technique used by mystics, visionaries, and secret societies throughout time, to activate this sacred eye tonight. But before we unlock it, let's bring this down from the clouds of philosophy and myth, and into the space where you live and breathe. Into your body. Your mind. Your life. Because this isn't just ancient knowledge, it's practical alchemy. And it's yours to reclaim. Now that the veil has been lifted and the deeper truth revealed, it's time to embody this knowledge. Tonight, you will engage in a forgotten technique, not merely a visualization, but an act of inner transmutation. A ritual of reprogramming your perception at the root, where reality itself is shaped. This is not to be taken lightly. Approach this practice as the ancients would, with reverence, intention, and presence. Because when you engage the third eye with true sincerity, it responds. And once it opens, even a crack, you will not see the world the same again. Begin at night, just after twilight, when the sky is neither fully dark nor fully light, the liminal space between worlds. This is a sacred window when the mind is softer, the ego less guarded, and the subconscious more receptive. Find a quiet space, one where you will not be disturbed. Dim the lights. If you can, light a single candle. Fire, after all, is the first light humanity ever tamed, and its flicker will anchor you in the present. Now, sit comfortably with your spine aligned. Rest your hands gently on your knees or lap, palms up. Close your eyes, but this time, instead of turning inward in the usual way, turn upward. Not physically, but with your attention. Shift your awareness to the space between your brows, just slightly above the midpoint. This is the doorway. This is where the ancient mystics focused their gaze, not with eyes, but with soul. Begin breathing slowly. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. Hold for 4. This is the breath of the sacred square, used in ancient mystery schools to create balance between the 4 elements: air, fire, water, and earth. As you breathe, begin to visualize a soft indigo light glowing at the center of your forehead. Do not force it. Let it emerge like mist rising from still water. See it pulse gently with each breath, as if it is alive, aware of your attention. Now, whisper to yourself, not aloud, but in your mind, a single phrase: I am the dreamer, and the dream. Repeat this like a mantra. Let it sink into the folds of your subconscious. This phrase carries a vibration, a frequency that aligns your conscious and unconscious minds. As you do this, you may begin to feel a pressure, a warmth, or even a subtle tingling sensation in the center of your forehead. This is not imagined. It is the awakening of the pineal current, the same sensation reported by mystics, shamans, and seekers for thousands of years. Here's the key that activates the shift: you must now visualize a version of yourself, already living the reality you desire. But this is not fantasy. This is alignment. See this version of yourself not as distant or separate, but as already within you. Watch how they move. Feel how they think. Observe how they speak, how they decide, how they respond to life. Now breathe this version into your current self. Invite them to merge with you. Let the vibration of that timeline saturate your nervous system. At this moment, whisper a second phrase: I remember who I am. Say it with certainty. With power. Because in truth, this is not a creation, it is a remembering. The version of you who sees with the third eye, who shapes reality with intention, has always existed in the quantum field. The technique simply bridges the gap. Remain in this state for as long as you are able. When you open your eyes, do so slowly. Do not rush to check your phone or return to routine. Sit in silence for at least a minute. Let the recalibration complete itself. In the hours that follow, and especially tomorrow, watch carefully. Subtle shifts will begin. A chance encounter, a repeated number, a sudden burst of clarity. These are not coincidences. These are responses. Proofs. Echoes of the new signal you've broadcast into the field. And remember, repetition is the key. Do this for 3 consecutive nights, and you will begin to sense the veil thinning. Reality, once rigid, will feel more malleable. Old patterns will loosen. New energies will rush in. The eye opens gradually, but once awakened, it does not close. You now hold a key that many have sought but few have dared to use, a key that opens not a physical door, but an inner gate. A gate that once crossed, reshapes the very fabric of how you walk through the world. The third eye is not a fantasy. It is not a superstition. It is an ancient instrument of perception, dormant in many, but fiercely alive in those who remember who they are. It does not grant you power in the way the world understands power. It returns you to a deeper sovereignty, the ability to choose how reality reflects the song of your soul. What you have done tonight is not just a meditation. It is an act of reclamation. You have stepped out of the river of inherited beliefs and taken a single, deliberate breath from the mountain of your original self. You have begun to see the illusion, not to condemn it, but to move through it with eyes open and heart aligned. And from this moment forward, the world may not look the same. Not because it has changed, but because you have. Remember, the third eye does not show you more, it shows you deeper. It reveals the pattern beneath the event, the soul behind the face, the lesson inside the challenge. It doesn't predict the future, it reveals how you are already shaping it. And once you see that, truly see it, you can never return to blindness. The veil may fall again, but now you'll know it's there, and you'll know how to lift it. So tonight, before you sleep, revisit the ritual. Let your breath become your gateway, your awareness the bridge. And tomorrow, walk gently but alertly. Notice what shifts. Reality often speaks in whispers before it sings in thunder. A chance word. A sudden insight. A dream that feels more like a memory than a story. These are signs, not that the technique has worked, but that you have remembered the truth you always carried. And if this has stirred something within you, if your soul feels a flicker of recognition, a rising of forgotten wonder, then do not keep this knowledge hidden. Share it. Speak it. Or simply live it, quietly and powerfully, as a light in a sleeping world. Your eyes are open now. What will you choose to see? If this message resonated, if the veil has thinned even slightly for you, leave a sign in the comments. Share your experience. You are not alone. There are others, dreamers, seekers, visionaries, walking this path with you. And together, we are not just remembering, we are awakening.